Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I'm really excited to have this chance to get to know you better.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah, I was smiling just like thinking about it this morning, like, oh, I get to have one of these conversations. It's so yeah, just really nice on my side.
Me too.
Um, yeah. So to start off, I would love to know right here and right now for you, what feels alive or exciting to discuss with regards to femininity and womanhood.
Hmm. Um, yeah, this is I hmm, I have kind of a complicated relationship with sort of, I guess, femininity and womanhood. And and it's I've kind of been thinking about like how to articulate this because I don't want to just completely alienate women either.
Yeah.
Um, but Yeah, so just I guess for various reasons in like my early childhood and stuff, like I sort of came to kind of, I guess, resonate more with guys than girls. Um and and I don't know how much of that I should get into, but it's yeah, like I like, you know, I'm perfectly happy wearing pink and live with like, having a female body, like wearing women's clothes, all of that kind of thing. And there are certain things like nurturing and like empathy and gentleness and stuff that I like and that I feel like I have those qualities. And I'm not like I don't do car mechanics or things like that. So I'm like in a lot of ways, like I think I'm very, kind of more on the feminine end of the spectrum. But there are certain like psychological things that I think a lot of the kind of cultural messages that guys get, I also wound up getting, like kind of um the protectiveness and a lot of guys seem to have like a sense of like feeling responsible for other people and like responsible for their safety and responsible for um like things that may have happened to them in the past, like responsible for fixing them in that way and stuff like that. And I feel like I got those too. Um and I could see the like damage that feminism does to people, um, to guys, to also to women. I think it's at this point kind of damaging uh, everything a little
Hmm.
bit. And so so that comes up for me a lot because I feel like most women don't see that, and most guys can't talk about it. Um,
Hmm.
and So, so I don't know. So I feel a little bit caught in the middle, and like it's something that I always, I don't know, want to be able to say more about, but um it's hard to talk about because people don't talk about it. I don't know how much of that is making sense, but
Yeah, I followed along so far. Um, yeah, that's a lot going on there. I really, um, I feel excited to like dig in more about everything you've mentioned so far. I find it interesting. There might, if there's a link or just the fact that like both you got along with boys better than girls growing up, you'd said, and you also received some like cultural messages or scripts usually that go to men.
Mhm.
Um, I just find that like a really interesting. I don't know. I want to like link those together somehow. But I guess like first here, I'd love to know if you're willing to share if there's any like experiences around having gotten along better with boys and girls growing up that feel good to share right now.
Yeah, yeah, it was, yeah, and it's hard to put my finger on exactly why. Like it wasn't the activities or anything that we were doing. I could do the same things with boys that I did with girls, but for some reason, like hanging out with girls, it was just like was there because I was supposed to hang out with this girl and or whatever, and I just wasn't very excited about it. But then like, and I actually I was I think this was intentional because my mother was very much a every man is a potential rapist style feminist, and so I think
Mm,
she was really like keeping me away from boys because I just wasn't around them almost at all. There was one time when I was like 3 that we were at a one of those evangelical tent revival camp things. And
hmm.
there was this other boy my age who I hung out with, and it was like first time in my life like wow, I feel like I can actually connect with this person in a way that I hadn't before. And then I didn't have any other wasn't around boys really at all again until first grade when I was sitting like across like my desk was across from this boy's desk and I just he would just make me laugh and I would just like giggle. Like I was so serious and quiet all the time and like freakishly shy. And suddenly like there's this person who just like makes me giggle like crazy and it's like all the like I don't know, stresses and stuff in my little 6-year-old world would just kind of like melt away. Um and so at my birthday party my birthday was like 2 days away from my younger sister's birthday, so we would always have a combined party. And my sister was like super extroverted, and so they would ask us every year, like, okay, who do you want to invite to your birthday? And my sister would have like this huge list, and I would be like, I don't know, I guess the girl next door, I don't know, whatever. And,
Mm.
so that year in first grade, my 7th birthday party, the boy's name was Drew. I was like, ooh, ooh, I want to invite Drew. And I was so excited. And my mother looked at me and she said, oh, honey, he's a little boy. Little boys don't like to play with little girls. And I was like so heartbroken. And so their way of making up for that was to have just a huge party with all of the girls from both of our classes. And I didn't like any of the girls. And my mom also had this weird thing where she she would always dress me in ruffles and buy me dolls and things like that, and I didn't like the ruffles and I didn't like the dolls. And so she told all of the girls' moms that I wanted Barbies. And because none of those girls knew me and they didn't know what I would like. And so I sat there at this huge table at like Showbiz Pizza with the animatronic like things opening like Barbie after Barbie after Barbie. It was like just such a weird, surreal thing. Like I just wanted like my friend and I had like all this other stuff. Um so like yeah, it was this weird and then I didn't have any other friends who were boys until middle school. Um but yeah, I was like and then it was just like I kind of had more freedom and could kind of choose the friends that I wanted. And so then my friends were almost all guys after that. Um, and at this point, I have some friends that are women, and they're great. Um, and sometimes we have like great conversations and stuff like that. And I'm kind of working on getting over that like block that I have. I feel like I could have close friendships with women probably, but yeah, it's just like so much easier. The connection is so faster with with guys for some reason, and I don't know why.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. Um, hmm. Uh, I'm curious to know more about I mean, just the dynamic with your mom.
Mhm.
Just seems really unique and would Might have like counterproductively like pushed you towards
Yeah,
boys men and
yeah,
girls growing up. I
yeah.
want to know about that. Yeah, I guess I'd love to know, I guess since we went up towards like middle and high school, like what was it like to start to have your mom have less presence in your life? I assume around going into your late teens or 20s. Like what was that
Mm,
process of shifting from her being so present to less so, I assume?
mm. It was it was pretty great. And I actually uh, so I was always like super obedient and like trying to like please my parents and do what I was supposed to do and everything. But when I was in eighth grade, I was just like so miserable. And there was this weird school that was like an hour and a half away from where we lived, in a different city where my older sister lived. And I wanted to go to that school. And I launched this campaign to convince my parents to let me move out and go live down there. And it was a lot of work, but it worked. And so I moved out at 14.
Wow.
Um, and, uh, and moved in with my sister, although right at that same time, her boyfriend got a job in a different state. And so she kind of left. And so it was mostly me. But, but then like the interesting thing was I immediately, as soon as I got down there, uh got together with my first boyfriend who was just like my mother.
Mm.
So I kind of like went from one to the other. But it was really nice, to kind of get sort of out from under my mother's thumb, I guess, in a way. And just kind of have some freedom because I was a really good, really responsible kid and stuff, and I was kind of fine being on my own. So
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so curious about like how your boyfriend there was similar to your mom because I remember like what stuck out was your mom saying things like implying and suggesting especially that men are dangerous.
Mm.
So was your boyfriend like, "Hey, I'm dangerous"?
Um, he wasn't like her in that way. He
Mm,
he was he was like her in the like I'm a victim way, and
mm,
I need everyone to take care of me, and
mm,
he was like an indirect communicator, which I I try to like respect different communication styles, but I just can't be around that. So um, yeah, I'm much more direct, which might be part of the thing that resonated more for me with guys than girls, although I don't know. I don't think that's the whole thing, but um yeah, so like I suspect both that guy and my mom might have, I don't know, certain similar mental illnesses or something. There was just like some
mhm.
definite like crossovers and personality stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah.
How was your experience at the weird school?
Oh, it was great. It was awesome. And it was like uh no desks. Like we would sit on the floor or on couches and call the teachers by their first names. No dress code. There was like a 12 to 1 student teacher ratio. Students could teach their own classes or just do independent projects. And so I was always designing my own classes, or I'd take a class and be like, I don't like this class, or I don't like these assignments. And the teacher's like, okay, what do you want to do instead? So I could just like kind of do my own thing. And I just like went wild with it. And I would always do way more work than was required for whatever it was. And Yeah, it was a really awesome experience. I really liked it. And I was still really shy and really quiet, but it was like, but my friend group was like me and the D&D nerds. So it was like it was like me and like seven guys, and 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 it was the school was so weird that we were so we're like the D&D nerds. We're the nerdy group, and we did not realize this at the time, but we were the popular kids. Like other people would like want to come hang out with us and try to talk to us, and we were all so like shy and awkward that we just like stopped talking when they showed up, and they felt like we were kind of being clickerish and shutting them out and stuff, but we were just awkward. But yeah, and there so the school was very feminist too, and I was like really kind of rebelling against that, and like I could see like how like the teachers and the girls like, and the way they would treat guys, how it was affecting them, and it would really upset me, and sometimes I would try to talk about it, and I was allowed to because I was a girl. Like if my friends had said any of that, they wouldn't have been able to get away with it. But um yeah, like I don't know, there was like one teacher who was just straight up like, women are better than men. This is a man teacher, and I was just like, no, you can't. You can't say that. That's like so not cool, and completely not true. And yeah, so there was I was definitely kind of fighting against the feminism at the school, but in general, my experiences at school were awesome.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I've seen and watched experiences of sounds like a I don't know what to call it, like free schooling or unschooling that like involve like
Hmm.
younger children, like maybe
Hmm.
into teenager age, but going into
Hmm.
like older teenagers, like that's cool. That's special.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Um, yeah, I want to like know more about what you see around feminism and the like messaging or I want to understand your perspective. It sounds like what you've said so far, feminism is harmful for both genders and women are more free to speak about it than men. Um, Whatever level of comfort you want to expand there, I'd love to know more about all of that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so like I feel like some of the messages that guys get, and that I kind of wound up getting to, is like this sense of like, um and I don't know if this is universal, but I have heard so many guys say similar things, like I feel like a monster, and like my sexuality is bad or evil, and not in the same kind of like, women get a different message like that, like they should be ashamed of things in a slightly different way. There's way too much shame around sexuality in general, but like they get this sense that like their sexuality is like dangerous to people, and that they have to kind of control themselves, or they could harm someone, and I don't know, there's like all these like this kind of fear that women express sometimes around men, which is like I understand, like there's it's like it's uh, it's hard to explain, but like how hurt guys get, like if a woman sort of like crosses the street, if they're like walking on the same side of the street and she crosses the street to avoid him or something like that, especially like guys who are kind of larger and stuff like that. Yeah, so I don't know, there are just like all these sort of messages and like weird things, and the whole like, I don't know, the kind of every man is a potential rapist thing that I grew up with was just like, it made me so angry. Like that is the talk that I got instead of the kind of birds and the bees talk like because I
Mm.
wanted to when I was in sixth grade, I wanted to I had this friend who was a boy, and I wanted to have him over after school one day, and my mom said, "Oh no, your dad and I aren't gonna be there." And I'm like, "Well, I have friends over all the time when you're not there. What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, he's a boy. It's different." And I was like, "What's different about it?" Like, we were 11, so I was actually bigger than he was. Like, it's kind of that stage, and so she starts kind of hedging and dancing around the thing and being kind of vague, but like finally I was just like, "Are you saying every man is a potential rapist?" And she said, "Well, yeah." I was so angry. I'd never in my life been so angry at my mother, and I like stormed out of the house. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of guys like feel like they have this like in them just by nature, like because they're male, like they could be a rapist, and they have this like fear that they could rape someone somehow. And I don't it, like um and it's I don't know, it's just kind of absurd to me. And I hate it that that happens.
Mm.
Did I answer your question? What was the question?
Oh, yeah, yeah, you
Okay.
did. Hmm. Um, I did want to understand better your mention of that situation where a woman like crosses the street to
Mm,
avoid like a maybe a larger guy.
mhm,
Um, yeah, I didn't quite get like your perception of that situation. Is it like
mm.
not cool, not great, fine?
It's just that I'm not, if a woman feels like for her safety she needs to cross the street, that's fine. It's just that it also it has an effect on the guy, and it
Mm,
I think I've heard like a number of guys like say that that really hurts their feelings.
hmm
And they also are very sympathetic to it, like they hate it that women feel so unsafe, that they would feel like they needed to do that, and they kind of feel guilty that they can't like help these women feel safe, and they feel like almost like they question like, am I dangerous? Like, it's this whole like psychological like spinning out kind of thing, that happens some guys, and with some guys. And um it, it might not be that way for every guy, but I've just heard enough guys talk about that, and how it um kind of upsets them a little bit.
hmm Yeah, thanks for elaborating there.
Mm.
Hmm. I want to ask like it's like fantasy question where if you could just like snap your fingers and then gender dynamics or gender relations would be different and like normal and accepted, whatever's different.
Mm.
What would you want to change or shift?
Mm. That's an interesting question. Um, I mean, on the one hand, I feel like it's important for us as a species to go through whatever process we need to go through. But I hope that the direction that we're going is toward more like empathy, and for just everyone, and toward not gendering everything quite so much. Like I think a lot of the problem between men and women is like, one person hurt you, and instead of seeing them as a person, you see them as their gender, and then every person of that gender is suddenly to blame for whatever that one person did. And not everything needs to be gendered like that. Like, hurt people, and that's going to happen. And we don't have to blame people that didn't have anything to do with it. Um so I guess I would like to see us all see each other as human beings, and and show up as human beings ourselves and treat other people with kindness and respect.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a nice message. Yeah, I see it a lot on Twitter. I've done it myself, where you can see like if a tweet starts like "Why do men" or "Why do women," you just mentally place like "Why does my ex?"
Yeah.
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 Hmm. 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 Since you got more, remember you mentioned towards the start that you got more messaging usually meant for men.
Hmm.
You got that as well.
Hmm.
Um, which of those messages like stood out the most, and also like why do you think you got them?
Mm. Um, well, hmm. So the the reason that I think I got them, I'm kind of piecing this together. It's a little bit of a dark story. But it's so my mother had like terrible, horrible stuff that happened to her. Like in her when she was a teenager and early adulthood, and she was kind of just like totally dissociated and like not just like there was like an empty shell of a person until she started getting therapy when I was about a year and a half old. And from what I can tell, it's just sort of like opened the floodgates of trauma, and she started like processing all of that stuff, to her therapist, but also to me. And like never really stopped. And um, so and I think that like when somebody's like processing really intense trauma, they have like lots of flashbacks and stuff like that. You can end up like not knowing where you are, like kind of like yelling and stuff like that. And I think I was probably getting a lot of like she's, thinking she's yelling at someone, her stepdad or whoever, her first husband or whatever. And me at a year and a half was probably like thinking that she was yelling at me and like all of this stuff was my fault and stuff like that. So I think that that's what sort of laid the groundwork for me to take some of those, um, internalize some of those messages. That's my best guess anyway. Um, so, so yeah, the like, you know, you're a monster and you hurt people and you're dangerous and those kinds of messages, which is kind of absurd in a lot of ways because I'm like very gentle and not any of those things. But uh yeah, so I think that's where that came from. And to be clear, I am super grateful for all of that stuff because it gave me this like kind of ability to understand people in ways that seems not that common. And I really like having that. And I've uh, like worked through so much stuff now that like things are good, and so it's like a happy ending. But uh, yeah, there's I don't know some of that stuff is kind of dark, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm. I'd really love to know about the work you do currently
Mhm,
related to sexuality.
mhm,
Um, yeah, so however, at whatever length you want to say this, what do you do there,
mhm.
and what have you learned from doing it?
Um, yeah, so like I guess I'm calling it sex coaching at the moment. I'm not super thrilled with that name, but I kind of meet with people over video call or whatever, and sometimes it depends on what people need. some people just need someone to talk to about this stuff because they've never had anyone that they could talk to. Um, so very often I'm like the first person that they've ever talked to about, these specific things. Um, and I just feel so, I don't know, uh, it feels very, I don't know how to put it. Like it feels very warm and fuzzy to be able to be someone that people feel safe enough to talk to about that stuff. And sometimes it's um sometimes we can kind of like come up with sort of spiritual things that they can try, like little like magic tricks or like rituals and stuff that they can do to like work on healing this or that or whatever it is, and that sort of thing. So a lot of it is kind of holding space and being a safe a safe place to sort of unpack stuff and figure out what to do with it. And then if we can come up with, if some people want kind of like practical suggestions and advice, and if that's what they want, I will do my best. And some people want kind of spiritual magical ideas, and if we can come up with some stuff, and we do that. And yeah, so that's kind of the gist of it, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm. It sounds like a really aligned form of service that you found.
Hmm. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Hmm. Odd. I usually have more curiosities, wondering what's going on with me internally.
Mhm.
Um, hmm. Yeah, I wonder what's your relationship like with your sister currently?
Mm. Um, well, there's actually three sisters.
Wow.
Yeah, so the younger sister that I mentioned, so I actually have not really talked to her much the last few years because I went no contact with my parents in 2016, and I my sisters, all three of them, kind of didn't didn't entirely understand why. Like it was like a kind of a safety thing. Like we had like a family therapist, and we had several sessions, and then I asked the therapist, like, okay, what's your take on this? And she's like, I see now why you don't feel safe with your parents, and I think it would be totally understandable and maybe even a good idea for you to go no contact with them. And so I stopped talking to them, and my sisters were like, oh well, they're just mom and dad, it's just how they are. So um they weren't really willing to be careful about like not telling my parents where I am and things like that. So I sort of limited my contact with them a little bit. One of my sisters I have stayed in contact with, not very comfortably, because she is also like two of my sisters are very, very feminist still, and so there's a little bit of, I don't know, tension and discomfort there, and there's also some alcoholism and like other complicated things. But yeah, so my relationship with all of three of my sisters is like not super close, a little bit tense. Yeah.
Hmm. Ah, hmm. Yeah, sharing that. I just have a lot of like compassion for we like stumble upon kind of new, well, sadder part of like your childhood. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
like my first 40 years are really dark. Like it's hard to
yeah,
talk about them without getting into dark
sure,
stuff, and I
yeah,
I don't mind talking about them. It doesn't bother
hmm
me, but sometimes people are like, "Oh, wow."
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I was anticipating like that flavor of a back or childhood. So I
mhm,
think it's like hitting
yeah.
me a little emotionally heavy as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, so like it is heavy stuff, and and it's just it's what happened, and it's not like defining me now. Like now I'm like I feel like a completely different person now.
hmm
Like I also feel like I'm 4 years old. Like I started the kind
Oh.
of healing journey like 4 years ago, and I feel like a 4 year old, and that's why I do all the like coloring of the butterflies and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's just like I just kind of like started over, and it's really good, and this stuff happened, and I learned so much from it, and now I'm just like excited about life, and like I'm using the stuff that I learned from it to like make my life even better now. And so
hmm
um yeah, so like all that dark stuff, I'm really glad that it's there. Um which is weird to say, but yeah. So I
hmm
don't know. That's my perspective on it.
Yeah, I'm glad you've done, sounds like plenty of shadow work, processing, healing around
Mm,
everything there. So I'm
yeah.
also happy for you there. What are you excited about for your life currently?
Mm, hmm. I I do so my other job besides the sex coaching is pronunciation coaching,
Hmm.
and so I work with people usually non-native English speakers who want to sound more American, and that really like tickles the intellectual part of my brain, and I get super excited about figuring out like this is what you need to do differently with your tongue to make the sound that you want to make, and so I get very excited about that. So yeah, I'm just like on video calls all day with my students doing that, and it's like every single one of them I come out of it like, wow, that was so cool, I love that. So there's that. I'm also excited about well, my kid is um great. My kid is 13 now, and they're just like getting, I don't know, they're in that like 13-year-old stage, which is just like really interesting to watch, where they're just kind of figuring out their style of clothing, and like figuring out all the stuff that they're good at and things like that. Um, and right at the moment, I'm getting some dings from the guy that I've been seeing, and I'm excited about that because he went on a date today, and it's so cool. I get so excited whenever he goes on a date with somebody new. So those are the kinds of things that I'm excited about, I guess.
Hmm. 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 I'm wondering what, if anything, how would you describe your philosophy or approach to parenting?
Hmm. Um, Definitely a key part of it is like, uh, don't forget that kids are human beings and that they have like the full range of emotions and stuff, and like you can talk to them about stuff. You don't have to like don't need to lie to them. There's no reason to lie to them. And yeah, so there's that. And so, and like, my kid is like trying on new pronouns and stuff, and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I don't know, like, just I try not to like order them around and stuff. I sort of, if with like house cleaning and stuff, there are some things that they don't mind doing. They don't mind taking out the trash and checking the mail and little things like that. But they hate washing the dishes, and so I wash the dishes, and because they also don't really care if the dishes are clean or not. And if there's a dish that they need that's dirty, they will wash that dish. And so we have like I don't know, we're kind of like roommates who um also like feel very, I think, I don't know, feel very tender towards each other. But I kind of like give them their space because they like to, do their own thing. And then sometimes they'll get excited about a TV show or something and want to show me. And so we'll watch something together, and it's nice. Or they'll like need something from the store, and so we'll go to the store together. Um and I try to like give them, I give people lots of compliments in general. Like, I don't know, I just like giving compliments, and so I do that with my kid too, um, which is fun because I don't know, they always get this like kind of like shy smile whenever I say something nice to them. Um, but yeah, just like I just try to like treat them like a full human being. Like that is the the most important part of it. And if there's an important decision that will impact their life, I consult them about it. Like we were
Mm.
talking about, I was like, do you want to homeschool instead of regular school? And they were thinking about it, and maybe, and eventually they decided they liked their school. It's actually the school where I went to high school.
Wow.
So kind of a legacy thing. But so so yeah, it's I'm a big fan of like the unschooling philosophy type thing, and like kind of letting kids do what they want, and having like real boundaries with them. So like I need to also show up as a full human being myself. So if I'm if I'm having a bad day, I can say like, I'm having a bad day, like, be nice. But so I don't have to like pretend that I don't have my own feelings and my own issues. But at the same time, try to I don't expect them to take care of me emotionally either. They can just like, I can tell them what's going on so they know if it's something that they need to know. And
Mm.
um yeah, just like being human beings together.
Yeah. Sounds like a really honest and open and empathetic environment.
Mm,
Mm.
hope so.
Mm. I want to know more about it's something like you implied you're polyamorous
Mhm.
a bit ago.
Yeah.
Um, see what are your favorite things about being polyam?
Mm. um I'm like so well suited to it. Like I get so much compersion. It's just like if someone I'm seeing is seeing somebody else and like having a good time with it, I'm just so happy. It's like, I don't know, it's like, and I don't know, I have no issues being in love with multiple people at once. It does not detract, like one does not detract from the other at all. And I don't get jealous, and so that doesn't come up for me. I try to be considerate if somebody else gets jealous, like, and I want them to be able to tell me if they do, and we can talk about it or something. But um yeah, I kind of and I worry sometimes because I sort of don't understand jealousy very well. And I try not to, you know, be dismissive or whatever, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around it because I'm just like so so happy that they're happy, and I hope that they are also happy when I'm happy, even if it's with somebody else.
Hmm. Very sweet. It makes me wonder, you ever experienced jealousy of anything ever, like outside of romance or sex?
Um, I I mean, I not I try to like when when I like there have been times when I'm like, what the fuck even is jealousy? I cannot figure this out. Like, have I felt this about something else? And it's like there have been times when it was like I was maybe got my feelings hurt in a situation where somebody else would have been jealous, but I don't think it was that I was jealous. It was like, for example, there was a friend of mine who um I was thinking about moving to his area, and then he got back together with his girlfriend and was like, no, don't come. And I was like, what? Like what do you mean? Like, and I wasn't jealous of his girlfriend. I was hurt that he didn't want me, you know, to live, in his town or whatever. um so yeah, I don't know. Like other people have things that I want sometimes, and it's like I wish I had that thing. I wish I had more money. I don't know. I wish I had this or that. Um but it's not that I want them to have less of it. And it's not, I don't really get a kind of antagonistic type feeling toward them for having it. So um I don't I don't feel like I get anything that I would call jealousy, really, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah. Hmm. It's kind of an intense way to maybe receive someone else's jealousy. Don't move here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, wait, I just thought we were, like, because we had like maybe like a relationship sort of ish, but like mostly we were friends. I was like, I just want to be friends. Like, we don't, yeah, it was definitely hurt my feelings.
Hmm. Hmm. I want to know what traits uh you tend to see more in women. That are there any of those that you particularly admire?
Mm. Um, yeah, like gentleness and nurturing. And I feel like some sometimes women are able to be more uh definitely able to be more like vulnerable um with people and kind of talk about things, and that might be difficult, that a lot of men I think probably can't because it's not as acceptable for them to talk about that stuff. um let's see. I definitely like looking at women. I think they're very nice to look at. Um, and I like the way they dress, and I like their hair, and you know, they're very soft. I like that too. So there's like all of that kind of stuff. I definitely have that whole like appreciation, and like when guys are talking about like girls and boobs and stuff, I'm like, yeah. Yes, definitely. Um, yeah, it's yeah, things like that. I like the empathy, like they and the compassion and those sorts of things.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a beautiful set of qualities there. Hmm. When in your life have you felt the strongest sense of like receiving, being nurtured from someone else?
Mm, mm, good question. Um, my grandmother was was pretty good at nurturing in her way, and I think I felt like she kind of was able to see me in ways that like other adults in my life usually didn't. So like for example, like my sister and my cousin like to kind of play and roughhouse a little, and I was just very like gentle and quiet and didn't really want to, wrestle. And so I would go off to play by myself, and my mother, if she saw me doing that, would be like, go play with the other kids. But my grandmother was like, oh, okay, here. She knew that I liked these particular like old, like delicate toys. She had these little porcelain ducks and little tiny like squirrels and things that she kept in this glass case. And she had this like really, really, really old doll, like kind of um doll thing that she always would not let the kids play with on their own. Like we could only play with them with like supervision because it was all so delicate and fragile. But I was allowed to play with it on my own because she knew that I would be gentle with it. And I really valued that. And I felt like she was in a way sort of like nurturing my um I don't know, like nurturing me as an individual, rather than like and like as a human being, as a unique human being, rather than like as a type, like as a child or as a whatever. So I kind of, I guess that's what comes to mind for that.
Hmm. 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 Do you have any, what's the word for this? Idols, inspirations, women you look up to, like either real, fictional archetypes, yeah, in your life.
Hmm. Um, I'm sure I do. I mean, there are some like I don't know. There are some people on Twitter that like that I really like. Some of them I know better than others, but like Trisha Pickering is a mutual that I I kind of admire, and like Kayla Lewis, like Estimatrix. She's we do video calls sometimes, and she's great. And Cheesecake is another one. We hang out sometimes, but let me think. I know I have like other um like either real or fictional characters, but who are they? Some of them are like I don't know, like I always thought Galadriel was very cool, sort of aesthetically, from like the Lord of the Rings. and there are probably some characters like that, but um, I don't know. They're not coming to mind immediately.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I tend to not. I tend to like. I don't know. I don't think that much about kind of famous people or characters or things like
Hmm.
that in that way. I tend to admire the people that are right in front of me and like that I can connect to on a human level, I guess.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Mhm. That was a nice little list, nonetheless. Hmm. Do you experience any uh social like pressures or expectations related to your gender?
Mm, yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely um I feel some pressure to like not express disagreement sometimes. And I've been sort of uh that's something that I've been working on getting more comfortable doing, expressing disagreement. And I think I'm getting pretty good at it. I also I feel some pressure to use indirect communication, and I pretty pretty early on was just like I'm not doing that. I'm just if you yeah, I'm gonna say what I mean and mean what I say. And if if you're expecting me to read your mind, um, then we're not gonna get very far. So yeah, so that's one that I just kind of discarded despite feeling the pressure. What else? I I definitely feel I feel a lot of pressure to I don't know, sort of um be on the female team and like be more feminist um and like join in the shit talking about men that women do and I kind of most of these pressures are things that I just ignore. They kind of like come up in my awareness and I'm just like whatever, I'm not doing it. Um so yeah, there's definitely stuff like that. And on the other hand, I also occasionally feel some pressure from guys to be attractive and like to, dress or whatever a certain way and like and some of that might be real and some of it might be in my head on on all of these um yeah, and sometimes I definitely get the impression that guys will not see me as a full human being. They're like placing me in some kind of a role. Like sometimes it's like a mother role or a I don't know, sex kitten role, like some kind of thing like that. And if I start to feel like that's what's going on, I'm kind of like, okay, this is not someone that I'm gonna connect with all that much. So um yeah, stuff like that.
Hmm. Hmm. From what you said about direct communication, I wonder, does that extend to flirting for you? Are you always direct when you're flirting someone with someone?
Um yeah, yeah. I mean, so the flirting is like a playful thing for me. Like I can use that to sort of like push past my social anxiety and so like on the timeline and stuff I like do a lot of flirting just for fun. And like the way I flirt, it's generally like giving compliments and like I don't I think there are probably a lot of times where people think that I am hinting at something or something like that. And definitely there have been times when people will come out and ask me or suggest oh, you were, implying this. And I was like, I was not implying anything. Like if I didn't say it, I don't assume that I meant it. It's not that I say every thought that's in my head. Uh, but if I need someone to know something, I will just say it in regular words. So so yeah, like I think I'm pretty direct about that too. And so like yeah, most of my flirting is like giving compliments, and if I want to pursue something with someone, then I will usually say that directly. But I actually I don't generally like to pursue romantic or sexual relationships with people that I'm not friends with first. And so that kind of takes care of that sort of communication issue. Because then we know each other really well, and we know what we both want, and what we're into, and what we're both like and stuff like that. So um but yeah, I think I'm pretty direct with the flirting too.
Yeah, cool. It's good to,
Mhm.
I know it's fun to know that. Is there anywhere that you feel on a cultural or societal level that men are failing women?
um hmm. I mean, right now, I guess I could say like I feel like I feel I don't know, failing women feels a little strong, but
Mm.
like I feel like they might be kind of doing everyone a disservice by um kind of allowing themselves to be mistreated. Um and and like when they feel like something, how do I say this? When they feel like something isn't fair, I think a lot of men don't say anything, or maybe they do, but then like if a woman jumps in and gets like loud about it or angry about it, they just like stop. It just like shuts it down. And yeah, if I feel like a lot of men are trying to sort of conform to the female expectation of using indirect communication, for example. And a lot of guys are not as good at it, and they don't feel comfortable with it, and they try to do it, and it creates all this confusion, and they feel like it's their fault, like it's their failure. And I feel like they could actually be like, actually, I'm just going to be direct, and I'm going to say what I mean, and I'm not going to try to hint at something, and I'm not going to try to read your mind. And um because like honestly, like when in doubt, like if you have a direct communicator and an indirect communicator, it makes so much more sense to do it the direct way because trying to do it the indirect way is so confusing if both people don't know how to do it.
Wow. I'm just I'm in awe. Like I've never heard that perspective before around men trying to play the indirect communication game and not being as good at it. That's really
Mm.
fascinating to me. I'm gonna like look around for it a little more often now if I have access to
Uh,
it.
yeah, and I feel like so many guys are like, especially when it comes to like flirting and like, oh man, consent, and like it's like, well, I gotta figure out what she wants. Like we have to figure out what women want. We can't just ask them because they don't like that, and so they keep trying to do what they think women want, and read their minds and figure it out, and like and they like they're not good at it. Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't, and a lot of people that don't know how to do it are just stumbling around. And this is, I think this is a lot of how like things get messy around consent, because like guys do get the message from women that like you can't ask to kiss her, you can't ask, you have to just like do it. And and women are trying to like put out these signals, and guys are trying to read these signals, but like it's not, they're missing each other. And if somebody would just be like, hey, like this is what I want, or hey, do you want this, like it could clear things up so fast. And honestly, I just want to like tell guys, like if you ask someone a direct question and you can't get a direct answer, and you don't feel comfortable in that kind of indirect communication sphere, like just just walk away. Like it's I'm not sure it's worth it. And I think if more guys would stop trying to play the indirect communication game, that women would come around and be like, oh, okay, maybe I, can't expect this of guys, and maybe I should just be a little more direct.
Hmm. Wow. For some reason, like a male flavored like story messaging comes to mind around like leadership. Where I can
Mm,
imagine for some guys like the, the compulsion to like be a leader with maybe
mm-hmm.
with a woman means he doesn't necessarily like solicit her perspective or viewpoint on something that even directly related to her. Wow. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I think I think some guys are trying to come across that way sometimes, but what they're actually doing is sort of following her lead in the communication style. And it's
Hmm.
not one that they're proficient in. And if you're going to lead, you should probably know what you're doing,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, and use a communication style that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hmm. How can men help women feel safe in their bodies?
Mm. Um, Gosh, that's an interesting question. I think to start with, it it really helps if they feel safe themselves. Um, and and so that's a good start. Then also, um, really kind of like asking what they what they want out loud. And a lot of stuff comes back to direct communication. And kind of not rushing things, and um um I think um I want to say being respectful, and that but I want to qualify that a little bit, because I think a lot of men are extremely respectful, and part of like their way of being respectful is like not making a move, and um not being direct, like trying to be indirect. And um and so I think some men are overdoing it. And because I think it's okay to ask somebody out. It's okay to express an attraction for someone. And I think the problem is there are women who feel threatened by that, and they've got some like trauma, and they've got things like that. But the problem is they make their trauma the men's fault. And and that's completely unfair. Um, and and with indirect communication, like uh, you're not supposed to say no. And so you're not supposed to put someone in a position where they should have to say no. And and that's so confusing. And so yeah, the respect thing, I think there are men who are not very respectful. Um, and that creates problems, but I think there are a lot of men who are afraid of being one of those guys that's not very respectful, or are afraid of being seen as one of those guys who are not very respectful. And so they like just way, way, way overcompensate and completely suppress their own authenticity in the process. Um, so yeah, I think yeah, like some steps to take on the road to making women helping women to feel more safe in their bodies is feeling safe themselves and just being being authentic, showing up as full human beings and treating women as full human beings, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm. Thanks for saying all that. Hmm. Yeah, I felt like maybe a theme there, as I heard it was like around embodiment,
Mm-hmm.
where like if a guy's more in his mind around like, oh, what will she like to receive, or what do I think she
Mm-hmm.
wants? That's all
Yep.
deprioritizes like what the body is, like how you are energetically with her,
Yeah.
what feels right to say or do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes we're not. Sometimes being like kind of embodied and in touch with our bodies and our intuitions, like if we're not in a place where that comes easily, that again is like where I think direct communication is good, and we can just say or ask, like, if you can't read their body language, ask. If you aren't sure what you're feeling, you can say out loud what your conflict is, and um what you're struggling with. So yeah, I feel like the direct communication can go a long way to making up for kind of bridging that gap between um wherever we are now in our process and being that like fully embodied, fully healthy person, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I imagine too, someone in these situations frequently like maybe like an acceptance also of or letting go of like outcomes or like desired outcomes again from the mind can help,
Mm,
where it's like
mhm.
if you're so like pedestalizing like someone you barely know, you're gonna like
Yeah.
ask them out. You're
Mhm.
potentially setting yourself up for a big crash, whereas like it's really
Uh-huh.
just this person you just saw and
Yeah.
started talking to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. When do you feel most powerful?
Mm. Um, when I'm turned on.
Mm,
And this is something that I think about a lot, and like sometimes when I get the opportunity, like in sex coaching or just talking with friends and stuff, like I feel like a lot of people maybe don't feel that powerful when they're turned on, because they're like very focused on some person that they want, or something like that. And that's a very different type of being turned on to me. So the the way I do it is, I don't need a person or an object of my desire. I'm not desiring anything. I don't need anything. I'm just like, it's like pure like sexual energy just like coursing through me. And it's like, I don't know, it just feels like so powerful and so creative, and I just feel like secure in the world and stuff like that. So yeah.
Hmm. It's excellent. I'm happy for you. Um, but yeah, I wonder, like, if the for you the like apex of like power or that feeling
Mhm.
comes from being turned on, um, do you feel like some other lesser version of that if you're experiencing just like sensual pleasure, like I like receiving a massage or eating like decadent, I don't know, food or
Hmm.
like sensual pleasures, dance maybe?
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, like so it can, it can be like a really intensely, powerful feeling, or it can be like a more subtle kind of feeling. But I can also like even doing like just very normal things, I can like have that like powerful sexual energy coursing through me. I can get it while I'm
Hmm.
washing the dishes or whatever. Like it it doesn't matter what I'm doing. So um but yeah, it varies in intensity.
Hmm. Hmm. Kind of sounds like a life hack too. Like, do you ever use it to, I don't know, be more productive or I don't know, like creative, I guess. Like does it benefit you, outside the bedroom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, if I want to do something creative, it really helps if I can get into that state. I've even used it oh man, I had some uh like divorce hearings a couple of years ago that I was going in. I was just like so stressed and terrified, and I'm like, hold on, like let's like what if I just get turned on by this? And I did it and it was great. And I was just like, this is awesome. Like I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not stressed out. Like this is great. Everything is great. So yeah, I use it on all kinds of things.
Wow. Most successful student of existential kink I've ever
Hmm.
heard about.
No, yeah, that was what gave me the idea. I was like, you know what? I could just get turned on by the fear. What if I just get turned on by the fear? And it totally worked.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Are there any questions you would love to hear other women answer?
Mm. Um, I I mean, sometimes I'm kind of curious about like the female experience, because there are aspects of it that I feel like I don't get. Even like it's like I've been treated like a woman my whole life, and somehow like some parts of their psychology and how they react to things, I can't quite wrap my head around. So I guess I'm curious about some of those. I'm trying to think of specific ones. There's a particular flavor of female jealousy. It's like male jealousy and female jealousy is very similar, I think. But there's a there's a slight difference that I don't know if I can articulate it. It's like it feels like the male jealousy tends to be more um like possessive in a some of this is like dominant and submissive, but like the female jealousy feels more like clinging than the male jealousy tends to be more, I think, possessive, and the female more clinging, which are very similar. But um I don't know. Yeah, they're just like things about like the female experience that I would love to understand better, because I like understanding people better, I guess.
Hmm. Mm. Yeah, it's a good one. Thank you. Um, related one. How do you connect with other women and like develop new social connections there?
Mm. Um, well, these days I make all of my social connections on Twitter. Teapot. And so I guess I I tend to gravitate more towards the like one-on-one type of connections with women. I'm I do okay with the one-on-one connections. But I get nervous if it's like multiple women at once.
Mhm.
So uh
Hmm.
so yeah, and it's like it's always kind of with women, it's like a slow process with me. Um so these days it's like we'll kind of usually we'll sort of like interact on the timeline a little bit, kind of slowly, and like at some point there might be something comes up, some reason to talk in DMs or something, and so we end up starting a conversation that way and stuff. Yeah, it's a very slow process, and it's hard for me to like sink into it and get really comfortable with it. But um but it's an interesting experience.
Hmm.
I'm still kind of learning how to do it, I guess.
Yeah. Could you describe what makes connecting with men, uh, I'm assuming, happen more quickly, less
Hmm.
slowly?
Hmm. Y yeah. Yeah, like sometimes with men it's slow too. Sometimes it's very quick. Sometimes it's a little too quick because sometimes there's like there's a physical attraction element, and sometimes I mistake that for like regular friendship because I don't I don't have any issues having, you know, physical attraction with my friends. That doesn't bother me at all, but sometimes I think it's friendship with physical attraction, and it turns out on their end it was only physical attraction, and then I feel sad. but um but yeah, but also I just like yeah, it's much faster, much easier. Um it just like I don't know, there's like a click. Um, it's like with men, the puzzle pieces just like click, and with women, the puzzle pieces, it's like you got to kind of like make them fit somehow.
Hmm.
Like try different things, try to figure it out. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really lovely imagery. Hmm. Is there anything else you want to talk about or discuss that we hadn't got to chat about on
Mm.
this call?
Um, I don't know. We talked about a lot of stuff. I can't think of anything.
Hmm. Cool. So we can leave it at that. Uh,
Okay.
I'm really glad to have gotten to learn so much about you
Yeah, this was a
here,
lot of
and
fun.
it just feels really good to just listen to you and learn a lot about your experiences and
Mhm.
perspectives. So thank you for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
All right. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.